Welcome to session 4 in our series of tutorials on using the Kadence theme and Kadence blocks to build a website. In today's session, we're going to be concentrating on the contact page and a number of issues that come up because we are wanting to send email from a website. This might seem like a very simple thing to do, but it's actually quite complex to get it correct. We all assume that just because we hit send when we send an email that it is actually going to arrive at the other end. This is it's not really that simple, and there are quite a few steps that we need to get in place to make sure that our email has the best chance of being delivered. And essentially a contact form is delivering email. It's gathering information from a visitor to your website, and it's sending information to you and probably to the visitor also, just because of a need to confirm. Just before we go ahead to build the contact page on our test website here, I'd just like to show you a few things that you can actually do with forms. Most of the ones I'm going to show you require more than the free ones that are available, the free form builder in Kadence themes, but many people think a form is only for that single simple purpose. You can do quite a lot with forms. Let me just show you a couple of things. We're going to build a contact page similar to this one, in that these are the three elements we need. We need the information about the contact, we need a form, and we need a Google Map. In this particular case, this is only a graphic from Snazzy Maps, because for this particular business, nobody ever goes to no one needs to find an address. But we do need to be able to make it that your business may need to be found in local search, and people may need to be able to come to your business. So we will have an active Google Map. We'll talk about this in more detail later. But this is the kind of form that we're going to be producing. Name, contact details, a message, and a button. Let me just show you a couple of other forms that are on this site. For example, this one is quite a similar form. There's some information. It's actually to make a time to have an online tour of a piece of software. I'm going to show you a couple of things different about this. It's the same as the other form we just saw. It has this option to be able to nominate which way you would prefer to be contacted. This is already pre-filled in. That's a good way to go if you want people to. You can nominate what they are likely to want to ask. On this case, it's please contact me to make a convenient time. And that's all we really are after from folk at that time. And then a button. We're going to quickly fill this in, and it's going to be Donald Duck. And his phone number doesn't matter. And his email is don@duck.com. Contact him by phone. Company name doesn't matter, and we're going to just use this. Now, what I want to show you, when we press the submit button here, this first name is going to be picked up, and this field here is going to be picked up, and we're going to see them expressed in the URL up here. So just let's press this and submit it. And what's happening here is it's generating a thank you page. Now, we won't go to the bother of constructing one of these in our example, but I will show you how to do it. And the reason we do this is twofold. One is to trigger Google Analytics without having to set up specific events. Google Analytics can always read page openings, and we've just opened a new page. So you can measure the number of times that this thank you page, which can't be accessed any other way on the site through the menus or anything, it's in a sense a hidden page. that will trigger an event in Google Analytics. The other reason that we set up a thank you page is it gives us one more opportunity to reach out to somebody who has already expressed some interest. In this case, we're asking them to subscribe to our newsletter. And this is another form. It's a very simple form. It just takes an email address and a subscribe button. But in fact, there is more happening. That form will take that information and it will send, firstly, the visitor, a confirming email, but it will also log their email address into a contact relationship manager. In this case, Fluent Contact Relationship Manager, or Fluent CRM. And we're going to see that even the free contact form in Kadence Blocks will allow us to do this. And I'll show you where you switch that on. And there is a free version of Fluent CRM. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but you can still send newsletters to people, and it's very, very cost effective because it's free. The other thing to notice on here is that we've picked up our visitor's first name, and that's because it's picked it up here in the query string. A query first name equals Donald and query preferred equals phone. So we know that information, that when we are contacting this person, we've already appreciated him and honoured him by mentioning his first name. Now I'm going to show you two more things that you can do with forms, examples, and one is also on this site. We're going home and we're going to a membership application. So this site is looking to, has a large number of members in the building industry, the supply side of the building industry, and to become a member you need to fill in this form. Now there are 11 steps in this, and so this is something that you're able to do with forms. Break it down into small chunks and give an indication to the person filling in the form as to where they are. It's very frustrating when you don't know how long I'm going to be filling this form in. So as we go through here, there's a lot of information that needs to be collected, and some of it is conditional and some of it has calculations involved. So I'm going to show you that very briefly on the way through. That's just very simply gathering information and confirming that you have the authority. This one is just picking up name and address. This one's also picking up name and address of the business. But you notice how we are now 5 steps through the 11. On this page, we've now introduced quite an effective thing in forms, which is conditional display. There are 11 pages, and 2 of those pages, in fact step 6 and step 7, are really only even displayed if you select here that you are in a partnership. If you are a sole trader, nothing else shows up on this page and you can go forward. If you are a partner, it gives you the option to add a second proprietor or director. And if you choose that one, when you go to the next page, it will be a repeat of this. So you can get more information. But if we choose sole trader, we don't fill that in, you're going to see 2 pages skipped, and we've skipped some pages. That was done by conditional display. Here, when you have terms and conditions, usually they're very long, and this used to take a couple of pages. But if you click this, it opens up in an accordion, and you can say that you've read it, close the accordion, move on to the next page. Here we have the facility to be able to download a document. There's a button, you click the button, it downloads a document for you to read and to sign. To the next page. This page yet has some work to do on it, but what you're able to do here is to give a user some information based on information that they give you. You can immediately, so the size of the trial balance, if it's between 1 and 60 customers, the annual subscription will be $1,118 and the initial invoice will be $809. But if that was bigger, then you get different figures. And in fact, if you go right to the very top, it says, doesn't give you an estimate, it says we're going to contact you and discuss this. you go on to next, and this takes you through to a thank you page like we've seen before. Now I'm going to show you just one other form, and then we're going to get on to construct our contact form. Here it is here. This is on a website that sells digital downloads, recordings of conferences. And down here, there are, I think, 36 or 38 products available. There are 36 products available, and that would be very complex to do like in a normal store, an online store. So I've chosen to do it with using a form. This is the form, and it has a number of pages to the form. But what you can do is filter. So if we just look at the plenary sessions, then there aren't very many we can easily pick. If we just look at the workshop sessions, there are not very many, and you can very quickly get to what you want. When you choose the format you want, I want the video, then the add to cart button becomes active. You can press that, it goes to the cart, and then tells you that you've actually got something in the cart, just one item, and you could go to the checkout. So that's another very, very useful way of using forms. So forms are far from a boring thing online. You can provide a lot of information and get a lot of interactive information with your visitors. Okay, so now we're going to build a contact form on our site, and the first thing we need to do is make a page. We will make a contact page, and we will put it in the menu so that we can easily access it. So we're going to the back of the site, to the dashboard, we're going to pages, and we're going to add a new page, and we'll just simply call it. Now, most sites would just simply put contact in there. But really, when you, from a search engine optimization thing, view, the worst thing you can ever do with calling a home page or a front page is to call it home. The vast majority of badly built websites in the world have a front page called home. Why not call this, the front page of this site, Kids Safe Play Safety, or something that is actually a searchable term? In this case, we're going to be quite simple, and we're just simply going to call it Contact Kids Safe. That's a far better name for a form, and we're going to publish that and publish it. And that's the now the next step. We can leave it there. It doesn't have anything on it just yet. It's a blank page, but it's not showing up here. So we're going to go to the dashboard, to menus, and we're going to add Contact Kids Safe, add it to the menu. It appears here. Now, this is the way that it will appear in the menu. We don't really, the reason that we called it Contact Kids Safe was really for search engine optimization purposes. That would look funny if we put that in a menu. I'll save it just to show you. But when we go to the front of the site, visit the site, it looks a bit strange. It takes us to there. We actually expect that just to say contact. So we're going to go back to the menu. And here, if we open this up, this is the navigation label. The name of the page is Contact Kids Safe, but the navigation label we want just simply to be contact. So there we go. There's the contact page. So we go to the contact page. Here it is. So here's our blank contact page. You'll notice that I've made the background back to white. We were just trying to show something on another page with a black background. But now we're going to edit this page, and there is going to be, we'll be looking at a contact page, something like this one. So this is a contact page we'll be looking at, just this block here. We're going to build a row with two sections, one with information, one with form, and then a Google Map. So let's do that. So we need to edit the page, and we're going to add a block, and of course it's going to be a row, and the first row is going to have two sections, and we know that the first thing we do is look at that row, the block, and we set the contact width to inherit from the theme. Now I've always come down here to do it. I'm about to show you a faster way to do it. We have already, this page is a block layout, a boxed layout, and so we're going to make this wide width, which will just go to the edge of the box, and we're going in here to use the theme for the inner width, so we won't be going any wider than what the theme has already determined that that box is going to be. And we will put the content vertically aligned. We could also have it middle aligned or bottom aligned, but let's just have it top aligned and see how that goes. So there's our first. Now what we could do with this one is to make a background color in the row. So it doesn't have to be much, just a little. So we're just going to come up to say there. And in fact, it might be better if we make that full width. That will be better. Now we're going to update it. Now underneath that one, we're going to add another block. And the row layout, it's going to be just one single row. And we're also going to make this one, to start with, we're going to make it full width. And we won't put any limitation on the content, because in here, we're going to add a block called Google Maps. There it is. And now it's going to ask us, we're not really in San Francisco, it's going to ask us over here, let's start with the road map. We won't put any filters on it, but let's say our business is located in the Chermside Library. So it's found us. Here we are in Brisbane in the Chermside Library. That's not really very useful in the zoom level, so we're going to come here and zoom in a little. We'll just make this bigger. I think probably that is fairly helpful to people, and it's already picked up. You'll notice over here you can have a bigger map. It's picked up the reviews. So if this was your business, you are now linking directly into your Google My Business and Google Business Profile and Google Maps, and it would be showing your reviews. And so this is a very, very helpful to have. So we're just going to quickly have a look at the page. We don't have anything up the top here yet, but there's our Google Map already in place. And what we're able to do is to scroll around the map, to zoom in, to zoom out, read the reviews, and get directions. So for local search, that's really critical to be able to give people directions. Now in this block here, which we've made full width, and that background color, we've also got two sections. We just can't see them at the moment because there's nothing there. So let's edit the page. And in the first one, we're going to add this one here. We're going to add a form. There it is, Kadence Form. Now, we don't need to make it any more complex than this for what we want for our purposes, but there are a few things that you should be aware of when you're doing forms. There's padding, there's background settings. You can change the color in the background, change the borders, dividers, all of that kind of thing. We come into the page. Now, here's where the interesting things happen here. The name settings, it's just a text. we can actually take the label off and we can have the field placeholder, and we could have that placeholder as name. Now, if we do that, it appears here, and we can take the field label off. We don't want to show the label. We have a field placeholder instead. You could put some text in a help text. And we could actually make it required. You really do want somebody's name. So there it is. And that's enough for the moment. We can go on to field 2, which is the email settings. We definitely want email required. You don't even get an opportunity. We can take the label off and we can enter the field placeholder email. Now, and here's our message. So just to give us a very quick look how we're traveling, this is how it's looking. There's our form. We could have a different color around this section if we wanted to, but let's go back to the page. Just for consistency, we probably want to change that to a capital E. Now, the thing about the form is that there are two issues with forms. One, and they are all to do with getting your form actually delivered. The first thing you need to do is to, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this later on in this session today, is to set up the mechanism by which the form is delivered from your website and wherever your host is to the internet and to internet service providers. And it needs to be set in or sent in a format called SMTP, which is Simple Mail Transport Protocol. It's just the way, a uniform way that email must be sent. And we need a way to do that. We're going to talk about that. And we're also going to talk about the number of DNS records that need to be in place to make that work. Now, coming down here, there are some actions after the submit. Now, these are the things that we were talking about when we were looking at some of the other forms. We can send an email. Well, that's definite, and that's even ticked as the default because it needs to send an email to you. If someone comes to your website and fills in a form, it needs to send you an email and probably some other emails also. If you were going to go to a thank you page, you would tick redirect, and then you get to nominate what the redirect page is. And then you can send to some of these other services like MailerLite. This one is, we won't use it right now, but you can add a user to the Fluent CRM list. Now, we don't have Fluent CRM added to the site, but if we were to install it, and it's free, the free version, this would pick the name and the email address and add that record to a nominated list. You might call them inquirers from the website. So these are some of the actions that are available after submit. Now, there's a number down here that you get for only when you pay the Pro add-ons. Now, Sendinblue, note that because we are actually going to use Sendinblue, but we're going to do it a different way. MailChimp is a very large newsletter sending service, and a webhook is a way to add this information to other services. Webhooks are used for automation. Now, we won't be doing any of these. On this particular one, we'll just be sending an email. It's nice and simple. The email settings, you need to have a to address and a from address. So any email from here, it needs to go to, let's nominate, you can put yourself in. and you can have a subject. On the more pro level ones, you can actually put fields in here. From email, you really do need to have a from email and a from name. These are critical to get those right. So the info, it's going to be something like info@KidSafe, but we'll just put my email address again. But it will be the email address associated with this website, this domain. The from name will be KidSafe. And you can CC and send a BCC to whoever you need to send that to. So they're the message and the email settings. We're going to save that. Now, this is the really important thing, is spam check. Because you have got a way of people adding information to your website and potentially using your email account and your email server to send their junk email all around the world, you need to be very, very careful that you don't get hacked at this point and that you don't get a lot of spam. So here is the very basic spam check. This is called Honeypot. And what a honeypot is a blank field, a hidden field that you don't see on the form, but there is a field. And when a bot approaches your site, it doesn't know that that's a honeypot field, and it fills it in. It fills it in with something. It may assume it's an address or a name, or it will fill something in that field. And this program is then going to say, well, that's a honeypot field, and you fell into the honeypot and you're stuck, and we're not going to send your mail. So that's a very, very simple spam check. This one here, Google reCaptcha, is probably the most common of these spam checks, and we will set up a Google reCaptcha. Now, we need to enable Google reCaptcha, and we need to update. Now, Google reCaptcha requires you to enter two keys, a site key and a secret key. And this will tell you where to get the keys. And we'll now go and get these keys to enable Google reCaptcha on this site. Now, this is the Google reCaptcha site, and I have already logged in because I use this quite often on many sites. But it's a very simple procedure to go to google.com/reCaptcha. If you've never used it before, sign in with your Gmail account. It's a free account. It's a totally free service. And what we're going to do now is get these secret keys. Now, I have 36 sites. I want to go down and find. We are using a subdomain of one of my sites, and it's a subdomain of. Did I put one in here? KidSafe. There it is. I've already set one up for KidSafe, but essentially we're now going to look at what you would do. You would say, open a new site, go to the settings, and you give it a label. You pick which kind of Google reCaptcha type you want. In this case, we chose the checkbox, Google reCaptcha version 2 with the checkbox saying, I'm not a bot. And here are the keys. We have to nominate exactly the domain that we're adding it to, and on this particular occasion it's kidsafesite.zban.com.au. So you need to put your domain name in there. You need to nominate your email or your Gmail account email address. Tick these, verify the origin, and save. And here are the reCaptcha keys. Now you get to see these two keys, and you simply copy that site key, go to the page and put in the site key, Now we're going to copy the secret key, go to the page and put in the secret key and save it. Moving on to this side of the form, what we're going to do in the top is just simply add a heading. Let's connect. And what we do underneath is the way we did that on the other was to use a block called an icon list. So we want an icon list. There it is there. And we put the information of the telephone number. So there's our telephone number. And on the next, we have an address. And so there's our information. And then, of course, we can have another heading and some text with opening hours. But just to show you how these work, we're going to come over now to the list and to the icons. We look at both the text and the icons. So we can look at the individual list items and all of the icons together. So let's start by editing the icons in the first one. So we don't really want a link, but we do want to change that icon, and it needs to be a phone. Let's check the phone, and let's just have this one. And if we have that phone, we need to make it a bit bigger. Let's make it about that size will do. And the line width, that looks okay. And the eye color, let's make it the orange. So there we go. So that's right for that one. Now we go to the second one. And it's here. And we want to get rid of that. And there's, I think it's called marker. There it is. We use that as the location marker. We do the same. We'll make it 30. And we'll make the icon color orange like that. And there we go. And that's actually going to do us. We could make this font bigger, etc. But that's how the contact side is made. If we were to put in then another one, we would go with another advanced text and put in hours. And then just start to put in the hours, but knowing that they have to be exactly the same as the way that it's written on your Google Business profile. And in fact, so does this. They are very, very particular that you couldn't put ST here and STREET on your Google Business profile. Google has difficulty in then aligning these up, and it will indicate some degree of uncertainty on your Google Business profile, and that's the last thing you want to project out to people. So you put in something like your hours, like this, and then just continue that down for each of the different hours. So that's going to do us for that part of our contact page. We could add a little bit of styling and have this white and that as a background, etc. But this is a functional page. Now, the difficulty is this, that if we were to fill that in and send it, it would go nowhere, because we have no mechanism in place yet to be able to transport this email to the internet. Now, this is the next important thing that we need to do. And I'm going to take you just for a little bit of pre-reading and recommend that you read these two blogs. There are two blogs on my own homepage. They're found under blog, and there are two that are really worth reading through. And we're going to look at some of this detail today. Let's start with this one, how to prevent spam, simply because we've just done that with Google reCaptcha. And down in this article, it talks about the Honeypot fields. It talks about Akismet, which is a service run by Automatic, which is the organization that administers WordPress. And that's free if you are using it for a personal blog, a personal site. If you're using it for an e-commerce site or a commercial site in any way, you're outside the terms of service. Google reCaptcha we've just looked at. The reason I've come to this page is to recommend that you very seriously look at this, a service called CleanTalk. And this is there's a video about CleanTalk. I use it on as many sites as I possibly can. You need to pay for it, but it's not very expensive. This is their site, cleantalk.org, and the costing is, I think, $8 US per year. But it is very, very good at preventing spam, and it actually has a very effective blacklist to cut out very many IP addresses, and they don't even get to fill in your form. So this is a very, very effective service called CleanTalk. Now, coming back here, let's have a look at the other blog that I'd like you to read, and that's how to prevent your email address being spoofed. Now, spoofing is when somebody takes your email address and sends out email pretending to be you. That's spoofing. And if you read this article, it shows you, it's quite a shock when you receive an email from yourself. Imagine that. Because it's probably got content that totally does not align with your values and the values of your company. And so this is the shock. This is how to prevent it. The only way you can do it is to insert some DNS, domain name server, records where your DNS records are held. There is just no way around it. You have to do that. Or you can take the shorter way cut and contact me and I'll help you to do it. Fill in this form at the very bottom. But this section of the blog talks about the 3 fields that are needed to prevent spoofing. They just happen to be the same fields that will help you with one other matter, and that's this one. Why should you be bothered with preventing spoofing? Well, there's another enormous benefit, and that is email deliverability. If you want your email to be delivered, then you're going to have a way better chance if you have these records in place, and they are the SPF, Sending Profile Framework, the DKIM record, and the DMARC record. Those are records that you have in place, and you are able then to improve your email deliverability and to go a long way to preventing spoofing. Nothing here is 100% guaranteed, but you at least have a much better chance. For example, even doing all of these things and having all these records in place with email deliverability, what you are able to do is guarantee that you can get the email from your server or from wherever you're sending it from, generating it from, whether it's from a contact form, or whether it's from an e-commerce application, or whether it's from a Fluent CRM and you're sending out newsletters, then you at least can guarantee that you are going to get your email into the mailbox at the internet service provider of your intended recipient. You can't guarantee you're going to get any further, because they may have you blacklisted, they may not have you whitelisted, they may not have you listed in their contacts, and you may end up in the junk mail, or you may be not even able to get in there into their client, their email client, because they may have very, very, very strict spam rules. And if you have like an attached document, a PDF, or a lot of links in your email, active hyperlinks, you stand very little chance of getting in. So email deliverability is a very, very big question. And what we're going to do now is to look at the whole question of email deliverability. So we're going back to our site, and we don't have any way to get this email coming from here or any other email from our site onto the internet and to being served. Now, it can be quite a simple question with certain hosts. If you have a host that allows you to use a thing called mail.php, which is a program that runs within WordPress, then that will do it, and it's quite easy to set up. But it's not very reliable. It's not a good way to do it. You really need to be using a third party email or SMTP server. Something, and there's a list of them, something like SendGrid, Mailgun, Sendinblue. There are very many of them that are very, very good. I normally use Mailgun, but because I now have to pay a small amount of money to use it, it's only a few dollars a year, we are going to exclude it from our consideration today, and we're going to look at a different one. Now, let's have a look in the back end of the site, and we need to install an application in plugins, add new. We need to install an application called Fluent SMTP. Now, there are a number of these that are available, and they're all very, very good. The reason I use Fluent is because I use many other of their products, and I think this one is also free, and I think this one is probably the pick of the crop. So let's take this one. There's Fluent CRM. It's free because every application for WordPress, if they want to be listed in the WordPress directory, they have to offer a free version. And this is not bad. You can do quite a lot. You could start a business quite well with this free version. We're not going to install it today, though. That's another tutorial. Let's activate this one. And then we're going to go and have a look. There it is there, Fluent CRM. We look at the settings. We don't need to put licenses in or anything because it's free. Now, this is one of the reasons that I like this particular application. It gives you an opportunity to connect with all of these email providers. This is PHP Mail. This is the one that some hosting providers will allow you to use. Mine doesn't, so we can't use it. But it's very simple to set up. You just simply have the from email and the from name. But I really recommend that you don't use it. You could try it, but I don't guarantee the deliverability. This is an opportunity to use your Office 365 mail and send mail out through your Office 365 account. That is a very good opportunity. It's quite complex to set up. The same with your Google Mail. If you have one of the Google Suite, or now they call it Google Workspace accounts, one that actually has your domain in it. So it's not kidsafe@gmail.com, but it might be info@kidsafe.com.au, but set up on the Google platform. So that's what we're talking about there. All of these ones, Postmark, Peppy Post, all of these, SendGrid, Mailgun is the one I use all the time, Amazon, other SMTP. This would actually allow you, it's a bit complex to set up and a bit fiddly. I've never really had much success with it, but you could use your free Gmail account through this setting, play with all the settings, and you may well get your free Gmail account like kidsafe@gmail.com, and you could use the Google SMTP server. Now, what we are going to do, I would normally do that one, but it costs a few dollars, so we're going to use SendGrid. So here's the Sendinblue website. I think I said just a minute ago SendGrid. Sorry, that was a mistake. I mean Sendinblue. So we are going to use this service. I'm going to quickly show you how to set it up. Now, I already have an account here, and so I can't really take you through the very first part of it. But all you need to do is take it for a free test drive, identify yourself, verify your email address, all very simple stuff. And I think they even send you a code to your phone so that they know exactly who you are. And that will get you, it's all quite simple, that will get you to the account dashboard. So you go to the account dashboard and you'll soon be here. Now, we're just simply going to go, I've set this up under this name because this is the name of the domain that we are working in. So if you have a look, we're working in a subdomain of zban.com.au, and that's why this SendGrid is in this name. At this point, what we need to do is set up the service we're going to use, and we're going to connect to Sendinblue. All we need here is an API key, and we need a from email, and we're going to say this is info@kidsafe. And we're going to say the name is KidSafe. And the API key, now, this is not difficult. To get the API key, we go back to the dashboard at our new Sendinblue account, and we come up here and we go to SMTP and API. The API key lets us connect, and there is one there already. What we're going to do is trash that and just show you how to set up a new one. Click here, create a new API key. We call it KidSafe. We generate that and we copy it. Now we come back to here and we insert our API key and we save the connection settings. So now we have, and we don't want to save that. Now we have a connection that is an SMTP connection from our site through a third-party provider, and we can get to the internet. What we're going to do is test it, and I can tell you pretty well straight away, it's saying that the email has been delivered successfully. But I don't see the delivery of an email up there. I'm just going to show you what I think might have happened. This is the one we sent. Congrats, the email was sent successfully from Fluent. These logos are not there simply because this ended up in the junk. So it ended up in the junk mail for lots of reasons. And having email end up in the junk mail is not what we want. So the only way that we can improve that situation is to go back to this site and go back to the dashboard, go to settings, and down here to your senders and domains. And in this section, what we get to do is to pick this domain, go to the domains, pick this one, and authenticate the domain. Now this is the bit that gets a little bit nerdy, and this is the bit that we were looking at on that blog. because what you need to do is add these four domain records into where you keep your domain records. Now, you may not even know where they are, and you may never have seen this before. That's why I have that form on that particular blog, and feel free to contact me there and I'll help you through it. What you need to do is to be able to copy each of these records and then put them in where your domain is kept. Now, if you don't know that, what you're able to do is this. Go to a website called What's My DNS. What is my DNS? And you type in the DNS, and the domain name we're working on is one called zeban.com.au. zeban.com.au. We don't really want to know where the A record is. We want to know where the name server record is. So we press that and we hit search. And this tells us that this is enough to indicate, oh, I remember, this is held in the Google domains. Now, as it turned out, many of my others are held with a DNS made easy. You may find a record there that indicates something like GoDaddy, or wherever you purchased your domain, wherever you have it registered. But I know that our DNS records are held in the Google domain, which happens to be where this is the hosting platform that I have this site on. And if we go to the DNS records and look down here, we can find zeban.com.au, and we go to the records, and here they all are. Now, what we're going to do is to add 2 more records, or 4 more records, in fact. And here they are. So you have to copy this one, and this one is a text record. And there are 2 sides to every DNS record. One is what the record is for, and this is for mail._domain key. So you have to copy that bit, add a new record, and it is a text record, and this bit goes in there. So it's mail._domain key.zeban.com.au. It doesn't really matter what that number is. And the data comes from here, and it's this bit. So we copy that, and we bring it to here, and we add that in. Now that record is now in place. And what we could do, although it sometimes does take a certain amount of time for that record to be propagated around the world, let's just check. The record is added, please verify it. And it's configured. So that record has been picked up, and we have now added a DKIM DNS record. Similarly, and I'm going to cut past this, we just do exactly the same with these others. This is a text record, that's a text record, and that is a text record. And you just simply do exactly what we just did. So at this point, 3 of our records have been already picked up and confirmed. The 4th one is just going to take some time to be picked up. So at this point, we now have all of the records in place. We have Sendinblue sending email, and our form is now actually ready to operate. So we could go to a site now, and we have a contact page, we have a contact form. It's protected from spam via Google reCaptcha. We have the SMTP settings in place. So email now will be generated from this site and will be delivered through the Sendinblue SMTP server. So we've covered a fair bit in this. Please leave any comments below. if you have any questions, and we'll be able to get and answer them for you.